please join me in welcoming the director of Frankenstein, the maestro, Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. What the fuck? Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Well, this is the culmination of a lifetime of trying to figure out what I felt when Boris Karloff crossed that threshold. And I was a kid of 7, and I thought, that's my Messiah. That's the Jesus I'm gonna follow. And I have. And through the years, I frustratedly realized this was gonna be a very hard movie to make. And I pursued it and thought, why is it not happening now? I wanted so much to make it a story about a father and a son, me and my father. I wanted to make that. And then as the years went by, I understood why. Because I had to realize that in the course of being his son, I became a father. And then it became about me as a father too, and the possibility of failing in similar ways than my father had to me. And that pain and that beauty, I think, is what comes with the poetry of horror. That we can talk about things that are delicate, emotional, and personal to you and those that watch your movies. And I've been doing that for 30 years. Thank you. And I think that we need, Mary Shelley wrote it when she was 18, finished it at 19, and then published it. And some people say, why, how could she do that in spite of being so young? I think that's the only way she could have done it, being so young. Because you ask the most urgent questions then without trying to figure out who has the answers. And understand that in your strength lies your imperfection, and in your imperfection lies your strength. And I think that never has been more urgent to ask the question that she asked so urgently back then, which is, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be human in a time of inhumanity, war, and in a moment of doubt as a race? That was true back then, and it's true right now. This movie is also the culmination of a long, not dating, not a single date, not a casual fling, but a complete marriage to Toronto. I said yesterday, and I mean it, Canadians are modest, so it takes a Mexican to tell you this is a great fucking city and a great fucking country. It is. It is. And you come to Toronto, not for the rebate, for the excellent, absolute, superb craftsmanship, artistic dedication, and intelligence for all the crews that have worked with me since 1996. And this is an industry that if you respect and love, it will respect you and love you right back. So I want to call some of the crew in the audience. Robin D. Cook, the casting director. My ex-neighbor and favorite collaborator, Jordan Samuel. Get up. Don't be so Canadian. Get the fuck up. Jesus Christ, guys. Come on. Come on. More Etobicoke and less Mississauga. Come on. All right. Christian T. Cook, Nelson Ferreira, and the great Nathan Robitaille. And Brad Cern. This is a group that has given me what I said is the best sound design and mix I've had in 30 years. I give a shout out to the great Kate Hawley, costume designer. And I call onto the stage my partner, Miles Dale. My non-Canadian partner, Scott Stuber, the first. The incredible creature designer that was responsible for the creature's final look on Shape of Water and is responsible for this film, Mike Hill. the greatest VFX supervisor in the world, Dennis Berardi. Evan Schiff, my editor. And I like him. He's been with me since Pan's Labyrinth. The one and only extraordinary emotional master, Alexander Desplat. And another collaborator that has been working with me since 1996, Tamara Deverell. Give it up for them. Now I'm going to call the cast. Christian Convery, extraordinary young actor. My favorite Austrian, Christoph Waltz. The one and only Mia Goth. One of the sweetest, purest, most intelligent souls I've ever met, Jacob Elordi. And a man that has become not only my compadre, but my brother, Oscar Hernandez Isaac. And now, everybody here, everybody in the audience that worked on this movie made it their own. I hope you do the same, and I'll see you after for a Q&A, when you can ask me about exercise or diet. Thank you.
The team of Frankenstein, producer Scott Stuber, producer Miles Dale, Christoph Waltz, Mia Goth, Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac, and director Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you.
We love you, Toronto.
Hello, Cleveland. That was nice.
We're so happy to have you here. Guillermo, how does it feel to make the film that you've always wanted to make?
It's a huge postpartum depression, number one. And I really, but on the other hand is, you know, it feels like a journey that everything, if you look at Chronos, similar themes, similar images, similar treatment of the melodrama of it and the drama of it. So, you know, it's like being training for an Olympic race and finally running it. I don't know how that feels, by the way. I gotta be very clear. But I think it's like that.
Jacob. Yes. Frankenstein is famously a very physical role, and you have to communicate so much solely through
Excuse
your
me,
face.
I'm Frankenstein.
I'm sorry. Yes.
He's the creature.
Leg. Give me your leg.
Leg!
I practiced not to make that mistake. Okay. As the creature, you have to communicate so much through your facial expressions and solely your eyes. How much were the makeup and the prosthetic process a part in helping you get into the mindset and understand the character?
Well, the man that made them is right there, Mike Hill.
Mike Hill.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, Mike Hill. And Meg. It was everything. I couldn't possibly have played the character without that. The process was, Guillermo had described it to me when we first spoke. He said I needed to take the sacrament, and it needed to be biblical, and it needed to be from the soul. So from the moment I sat in the chair with them in the morning, as sort of me, that kind of 10-hour process was what was necessary to be able to sort of step into that world. So it would be impossible without the work of Michael.
For the creature, he starts out very childlike and innocent, but it's when he actually meets the older man and he starts reading about the human condition, he becomes a bit more angry and a bit more sad about his state and his circumstance and wants to pursue his creator. Can you talk a little bit about why it's that journey of learning more about the rest of humanity that makes him understand who he is?
Well, I think that it's clearly in the book, and it's clearly in the journey that we exist in a state of innocence. I mean, the biting of the apple is the tree of knowledge. I mean, it is when we recognize our condition, is when we start feeling the world as a place that is either welcoming or horrible. And eventually, after 50, you realize it's both. You know, you realize that that's the way it is. One of the books I recommended all the cast, and I send it to them, is the book of Job, which is the most mysterious, beautiful book in the Bible. And it's exactly that question: why do bad things happen to good people? And the answer God gives is, basically, that's the way it is. And you don't question me, which is an answer I heard from producers, but not from God. But ultimately, that's what we have to make peace. The world is at the same time a horrible, marvelous place. And that's the journey. The journey is every man's journey, every person's journey.
Do you feel that's why Frankenstein's monster has been considered one of the most sympathetic creatures? Like we're much quicker to sympathize with the creature than we are, Dracula or werewolf.
Well, the great thing is the beautiful thing with this is that is the other than Caliban. I think that Mary Shelley articulates the plight of Caliban in a way that is profound, and she's articulating Milton, Paradise Lost. She's articulating so many things. The Romantics were reacting with emotion. After the Age of Enlightenment and the wars, they basically were punks. They were really, really iconoclastic and brutal, and they broke all the rules of society, and they gave voice to these sentiments. They revolutionized literature because it was emotion. And I remember Lord Byron used to say, if there's no other emotion, shock them into feeling. And I think we are there again. I think emotion is the new punk. Emotion, we are afraid of showing it. We're afraid of seeing it. That's what is really tragic. We're afraid of seeing emotion. We are in such a state of separation between us and within ourselves that emotion seems ridiculously big. And it's the only thing that's going to save us, to have empathy and emotion.
So many versions of Frankenstein really focus on the horrific aspects, but you bring this back to, as you say, the literary romanticism, the Gothic, and part of that is the narrative, but also the scope and scale and craft and the visual world you create. Can you talk a little bit about, the production design and the costuming and what those conversations were?
Yeah, we traveled together with Tamara and Guy Davis, who is my right-hand guy in conceptual, and we traveled through all Scotland and the UK and scouted all of Canada, and we were riffing. I have a moment in which we go deep into the shapes and the colors, and everything has to have a meaning. The circle is because of the circularity of the tail, the fact that the mirrors are circular. These guys are two sides of one coin. The Medusa is a misunderstood monster, blah, blah, blah. You have to cipher everything in images, and I think that is not, I've said it repeatedly in Toronto. The difference is I don't do eye candy, I do eye protein. I nurture the story through the themes, and wardrobe understands that wardrobe is production design. And production design understands that it is wardrobe and cinematography. We're not separate, we're a single unit telling the same story. And then you color code it or shape it. Like if you notice in the movie, red is the mother, and it carries all through. He never recuperates from losing the mother. And it's ciphered very carefully. And that's the way we approach it. The wardrobe, we loomed the fabrics. Every fabric that is significant was loomed, especially for the movie. There are patterns of nature in the fabrics, arterial, mineral, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think, look, I've been dreaming about it for one reason at this scale. That's why it didn't get made earlier. Because I said it has to be that big. It has to be a Barry Lyndon youth and exploding at the seams with life, because it's the modern Prometheus. We needed to make it feel modern and happening and all that. And we did enormous work into doing that. One day I'll come back and we'll do a class on TIFF, a couple of days, and talk about all the production design. I'll be very happy.
We're going to hold you to that. Oscar, I've heard Guillermo describe his view of Victor Frankenstein as a Byronic rock star. And first, it must feel good to be the actor that pops into mind when somebody's thinking, who can I get to be a Byronic rock star? It's Oscar Isaac.
I thought he had said moronic rock star, but it turns out it was Byronic, I guess.
I did say moronic.
But I was very interested in Victor's relationship with his father, who was somebody that was very invested in legacy, very invested in perfection. And despite knowing how much that hurt him as a child, he seems to reproduce the same relationship with the creature. Did you have discussions about whether that pattern was somewhat inevitable?
We did. That's how we kind of came to it together and synchronized, speaking about our own experiences. But yeah, it's that idea, and I think as a father, that fear that just happens where your child becomes just an extension of you, either in failure or in triumph, and the humiliation or the pride that comes from treating a child as an object, and so. Yeah, and so the fact that, and that is quite a departure from the book, because in the book, Victor has quite a doting father. And so kind of really keying into the circle, as you spoke of, like the circle, these patterns that he becomes blind to it. The creature, he doesn't even see him as a son. He sees it as just an extension of his triumph or his failure. And so it allows him to treat him with such cruelty, because he just doesn't, it's treating himself that way. And so the journey to get to have his, this version of himself, perhaps his child, his abused self that he recreates, has to chase him down into the Arctic to come and have a conversation with him and ultimately forgive him.
But also, there's a lot through the years, decades of reading about Mary Shelley and the Romantics, and there's a lot of biography of Shelley in the book, and there's a lot of biography of Shelley in this. She had a terribly tense relationship with her father. Her last two books are basically about tyrannical father figures, and I tried to pack as much as possible in that, and at the same time do it differently. the construction of the creature like a waltz, like a joyous moment, as opposed to horror and all that. So if you read about the war and the war, how it influenced the Romantic movement, Waterloo, one of the most beautiful poems Byron ever wrote was about Waterloo. So there's a lot of things that are there that if you know Gothic romance and the Romantics and all that, you'll spot more stuff.
I want to get to you, Mia, because Elizabeth has such a complex and special relationship between Victor, his brother, and the creature. Can you talk a little bit about what you thought of that character and how you felt her place was in that web of relationships when you read the script?
What I thought of the two characters?
Of your character.
I mean, Elizabeth is, I struggled a lot, actually. When I landed in Toronto, I felt very green and just like a baby, really. I just was so scared. And that fear never left. And I was constantly trying to push that fear down. And I was trying all sorts of things and nothing. And it just, I was just so scared the whole time. And I just kept thinking to myself, it's Guillermo, and he has his opportunity to make Frankenstein, and how amazing is that? And I get to be a part. I mean, I was just in my head all the time. And then eventually I just, I just had to work with what I was being handed, and those were the feelings that I was being given, and I just eventually decided that I had to work with that. And, whilst there, I would say, there was, Oscar is a very singular actor. I was incredibly excited to work with him, and I'd been a fan of his work for a very long time, but essentially he was playing an island, and I found it difficult to reach him at times, and I found that quite frustrating. Although occasionally he would build bridges towards me, and we would have moments of connection, and I was grateful for that, but ultimately it was beneficial for the work. And I think there's such a kindness to Jacob that, regardless of all the prosthetics that he is under, that his humanity and just this goodness just kind of seeps through that. It made my job of being his defender, his protector, very easy. So it was just a very constructive environment, and I just kind of ended up using what I was feeling to inform the work, as opposed to trying to impose my will on what I thought it should be.
So sounds like you built up a rapport that made it easy for you to kind of inhabit that role. And Christoph, your character's not in the book. Did you help to develop that, or did it come to you kind of fully fleshed out in the script?
In what book?
Yeah.
In my book, it was.
Fair point.
We are neighbors. So we went to lunch a few times to talk about it, But we were jurors together in Venice, and I fell madly in love with this guy. And I said, and we have conferences and lunches and a lot of fun. Lunches are important.
Does that answer your question?
Well, now that you've made your passion project, what's next in terms of your exploration into the world of creatures and the Goth?
This sort of closes a huge episode in my life. This really, really does. I am right now preparing a stop-motion adaptation of The Very Giant, the Kazuo Ishiguro novel. And it's going to be an epic stop motion that is not going to be for kids. It's truly exploring the capacity to act of a stop motion project and fuse a world the way you would do it if it was live action. And I'm writing a project to do with Oscar. I'm writing it right now. And it's called Fury. And essentially is going back to sort of the thriller aspects of Nightmare Alley. Very cruel, very violent. It's like My Dinner with Andre, but killing people. After each course. Because I'm very interested in the violence we do to each other. And we do it with our minds, we do it with our souls, and we do it physically. And I think it's new questions. New questions. I'm 60 now, so I've gone from asking who I am, father and son, to regret. I'm in the regret decade. So expect a lot of regret.
Well, this film won't be one of the things you regret. We're so thrilled to have it here. Thank you for bringing it to TIFF, and thank you for being part of our 50th edition. You're part of our family. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, Cleveland.